Go forth, Garl Vinland. May you be unharmed.
Welcome to episode 40 of the Metamagix Monster Manual and another continuation of the Demon Souls chapter. In this episode, we are going to be covering how I think you should run the Maiden Astraea, Garl Vinland, and their two subsequent magic items in D&D 5e. As a reminder, you can find a link to every single stat block and every single magic item from the Metamagix Monster Manual in the description of this video. It'll take you to my Discord where you can find downloadable pictures for free. And if you want to see all these monsters and magic items run live in action, you can jump on over to my Twitch stream where I run weekly interactive D&D campaigns featuring all items and monsters from the Metamagix Monster Manual that you, the viewer, can influence. The link to that can also be found in the description. But before we jump into any stats, let's go over some design goals when talking about the Maiden Astraea / Garl Vinland. Now, for the design goals, both of these monsters are meant to be run together. This is a paired encounter. Garl Vinland and Maiden Astraea are linked together, and the stat block should convey this. These designs are also meant to make a sort of unconventional encounter, and you'll see that coming up when the stats are shown. And this should be relatively mid-game of an encounter, somewhere between levels 5 through 10. But with all that out of the way, let us begin. So before we talk about the Maiden Astraea herself, let's talk about her bodyguard, Garl Vinland. Garl Vinland is considered a medium humanoid with a true neutral alignment. He has an armor class of 20, plate mail, and a shield, 400 hit points, and a movement speed of 15 feet as he is weighed down by all of his armor and weapon. For the stat array, we have a very high strength and constitution, both at 20 with a 10 dexterity, 12 intelligence, 14 wisdom, and 8 charisma. He has saving throw proficiency in strength with a +10 modifier, a passive perception of 12, speaks common, and has a challenge rating of 13. Garl Vinland's two abilities are innate spell casting. Twice per day, Garl Vinland can innately cast heal, requiring no material components. And he also has the Broken Bond ability. If Maiden Astraea is killed, Garl Vinland dies at the end of his next turn, as he does in-game, kind of. And for his actions, we only have Mace Smash, which is a melee weapon attack, +10 to hit, reach 5 feet, and deals 23 or 4d8 +5 bludgeoning damage. And we also have God's Wrath, which is a recharge on 5 or 6 on the die. Garl Vinland blasts radiant energy in a 10-foot radius centered on himself. All other creatures in range make a DC 14 dexterity saving throw, taking 3d8 damage and being knocked prone on a failed save, or half as much damage and not being knocked prone on a success. So that is Garl Vinland's stat block. What is Maiden Astraea's stat block? Well, Maiden Astraea is also a medium humanoid with the true neutral tag. She has an armor class of 10, 100 hit points, and cannot move. She has a baseline 10 stats all around on the stat array, passive perception of 10, speaks common, and is a challenge rating of 1. She also has the Broken Bond ability of when Garl Vinland is killed, Maiden Astraea also dies at the end of her next turn. Her one action is God's Wrath. Maiden Astraea blasts radiant energy in a 10-foot radius centered on herself. All other creatures in range make a DC 14 dexterity saving throw, taking 3d8 radiant damage and being knocked prone on a field save, or half as much damage and not being knocked prone on a success. She cannot do anything else. So these two are meant to be paired together in the same encounter. Ideally, you want to have Garl Vinland positioned in such a way that it is impossible or almost impossible for the party to get to the Maiden Astraea before they get through Garl Vinland in some way, whether or not that is moving him out of the way or something of the sort. Basically, you need to run this encounter with Garl Vinland protecting Maiden Astraea at all costs. But your party will likely have been able to best Garl Vinland and the Maiden Astraea. So what are they going to get for completing this feat? They're going to get two separate items. The first one being Bromd, which is Garl Vinland's weapon himself. It is a very rare maul that requires attunement by a creature with 20+ strength. A dreadfully large crude iron hammer, one of the Vinland family treasures, said to have been bent into its shape by an old killer of giants. Increases resistance to plague and poison, but impossible to wield properly by anyone of ordinary strength, even when grasped with both hands. The weapon deals 2d6 bludgeoning damage. You gain +2 to attack and damage rolls made with this weapon. While wielding this weapon, you gain resistance to poison damage. If you already have resistance to poison damage, you gain immunity to poison damage. So pretty fantastic ability overall, depending on the setting you happen to be in. And for the Maiden Astraea, you get the Blue Blood Sword. It is a very rare longsword that requires attunement, a white iron straight sword born from the soul of the demon Maiden Astraea, the sword of true nobility endowed with an essential power humans are born with, which increases its attack power. The damage is 1d8 slashing or 1d10 versatile if you're wielding it with 2 hands. You gain +2 to attack and damage rolls made with this weapon. Your critical hit range is increased by 2 when rolling to hit, so anywhere between 18 through 20 on the d20. Very simple weapons overall, and very powerful in the right hands, and a very unconventional encounter nonetheless. But guys, that is how I think you should run the Maiden Astraea and Garl Vinland along with their magic items in D&D 5e. If you guys enjoyed this video and enjoyed the stat block, be sure to leave a like on this video, and any comments or questions you have, please leave them in the comment section down below. I will read all of them, and we only have a few more Demon Souls stat blocks left before we move on to our next game, so be sure to subscribe and not miss a single one of those. But until next time, guys, have fun, stay safe, and as always, happy gaming.